Amen.
All right, my friends. So we're just going to go. Whatever I printed, I put in the printout, we'll do, and whatever I didn't, we'll do Baal Peh, and we'll get as far as we'll get. Okay, so number one, we said this already in the name of Rabbi. I heard of the name of Rabbi Fisher, who's the Rosh Kollel of Ger in New York. Should be well, but we've seen it also in other sources. But Rabbi Farkash also brings it that the whole thing of boyer solids from liquids only applies if it's a small solid like a fly, but not if it's a large solid. So therefore, if you have chicken soup, and in the chicken soup you have pieces of chicken, carrots, celery, onions, all big pieces. Shalom Aleichem, how are you? Welcome. You made it. So I sent out a printout, so that's what we're using. It's from Rabbi Farkash and Sefer. So a person, this is David Walker, by the way, who's only on the computer, but this is him in the flesh. So the point is that if you have a soup that has large pieces and you want to separate them out, so that is not considered boyer. Because the whole thing about a fly is only because it's small, so that's why it's considered mixed. But a large salad and a liquid is not considered mixed. So the mind nafkamina. So first of all, he says you can use a slotted spoon to remove the big pieces. Because the whole thing about not using a keli is only if you're doing an act of boyer. You can't use a keli that is miyuchad for boyer, that is specifically for boyer, if you're doing an act of boyer. But like we've said many times, if you're not actually doing an act of boyer, you're allowed to use a keli, even though that keli is usually used for boyer. Who remembers an example of this? Who remembers an example of this?
Well, doesn't this have to be at the time of eating?
I can't hear you clearly. One more time. I'm sorry.
Does this have to be at the time of eating?
No. This is the chiddush. One second. This is the chiddush. Because it's not an act of boyer, it does not have to be at the time of eating. If it's boyer in a permissible way, then it has to be at the time of eating. And obviously you can't use a keli. But if it's not considered an act of boyer because they're not considered mixed, then there is no such restriction of doing it before you eat. And also of not using a keli, yes?
So you can take it out with
No.
the soup?
No, that's not a good example, actually. No. There, that is boyer, but according to many poskim, not everybody agrees. But because you're taking it together with some soup, so that's why it's okay. Or because you're tipping it out. But the point is that you have to do it right before you eat. And the only reason you're allowed to use a keli, that spoon, is because it's not specifically a boyer keli. So it's no different than your hand. You're allowed to use your hand. That is a spoon, so your hand shouldn't get dirty. But I'm talking about using a slotted spoon, a spoon with holes, which is normally considered a kli that is miyuchad for boyer, specifically used for boyer. Nevertheless, you're allowed to use it because here it's not considered boyer.
So we gave the example of a sieve and of a cloth.
Thank you very much. Exactly. You're allowed to strain water that is pure through a strainer because it's not boyer. So therefore, you're allowed to use the keli. The same thing here. So that's just an interesting thing. He even says, for example, you want to put away the chicken soup Friday night after the meal and put it in the fridge. But for some reason, you want to put the broth in one container and you want to put the vegetables and the matzah balls or the chicken in another container. So he says you can separate them because it's not boyer. I'm talking about all big pieces. If there's any small pieces, then not. But if it's all
And this
big,
is only big pieces from liquid, but not big pieces from other big pieces.
exactly. Not big pieces from other big pieces. You have to take out all the big pieces. You can't choose one, some types and leave.
Well, we can take out the ones we want, but we can't.
Only the ones you want for immediate use, but not for away.
So if you take all the chicken pieces from there,
Yep.
you take one here, you can put it here, and another one in the other part too.
Why not?
Okay. So it's meaning if you want instead to separate it over there, to choose the big one or small one, the whatever the wing was. So you just take and you.
No, I'm not talking about choosing different types of chicken pieces. I'm talking about separating the soup and the chicken. You're not choosing different types of pieces of chicken.
You take all of them for
Taking all of them. If you're choosing different
doesn't matter
types,
where you put it.
if you're choosing different types, then it's a question already. Then maybe you can only do it right before you eat it.
No, you take all of them, but it doesn't matter where you put it.
Doesn't matter where you put it. I mean, you can't sort them. You can't put the wings here and the other types there. You know what I'm saying? I mean, the truth is with soup, I don't know if the pieces are different because they're all used in the same way. It's not like with cooked, roasted chicken. Maybe some people like one, some people the other. Here, it's not really. People don't really eat it. If they do eat it, they don't care what type. So I don't know if that makes a difference.
But if I have, let's say, if I have a chicken, many pieces in a pot, you can choose whatever piece you want to eat.
To eat for sure.
Oh, for sure. So it's
to eat for sure.
Not big deal where you put it. It's okay.
Eat for sure. If it's not for eating, there's a question if different pieces of chicken are considered different or not. You mean like a thick soup? You mean no? Challah is not liquid.
No,
challah is not liquid.
It's very liquid. So basically, if you scoop, it doesn't stay firm. It's black.
Yeah, but there's a lot of pieces in there. So the liquid is liquid, but the salad is solid. Salad is solid. Whatever salad is solid. You know what I'm saying?
Whatever is liquid is liquid.
Okay. Saying you can take, but the pieces there are not big pieces only. In a challah, you'll have the potatoes. You also have the barley. So you're not going to, the rice or whatever. So there, it's not going to be simple to separate it out.
Does that mean I can use a strainer to strain the liquid out of soup? So I can put a strainer on a container, and then I can pour the soup through the strainer so it strains out all the big bits. And put that into a separate.
But if you have small bits that you're straining out, then it's a problem. You have little pieces of parsley or I don't know, whatever else you garnish it with, then it's a problem. But if it's just big pieces and soup, then yes.
How does that? And is it significant that the soup is something that you want, as opposed to a liquid you don't want?
No, that's his point. Because it's not considered borer. So there's no active separation of selection because big pieces in liquid are considered separate and distinct. So it's not like you're considered doing an active selection.
So I could drain the liquid out of pickles.
That's correct. You could drain the liquid out of pickles. That's correct.
What's considered big and what's considered small?
A fly is small. A pickle is big.
And olives?
I don't know. That's already getting close. Although I did hear from Rabbi Fish. He said clearly, I don't know if Rabbi Farkash says this or not, but Rabbi Fisher said that in his opinion, a tea bag is also a big thing. So it's not quite as small as an olive. I'm still not sure about an olive, but he was the opinion that a tea bag is considered big. Yes.
So tea bag, you have to 3 cups to press it to make easy.
That's for Bishul. I mean, that's a question, different opinions. But I'm saying, besides that, let's say you already did it in whatever way, taking it out, according to Rabbi Fisher, is allowed because it's a big piece. It's not a small piece.
That's subjective. There's no measurement. you know.
I didn't say there's no measurement. I never came across one. Never came across one, so I don't want to make it up.
Generally
I want to make
accepted
it up.
is
I don't want to make
small
it
is
up.
small and large is large.
Yeah, but I don't want to say exactly what it is. A fly you can't?
No. When the liquid is a liquid.
And liquid is something that you need a spoon for, that you drink, that you don't eat. I don't know. What's a liquid?
Something that's very thick. Also going to be like a sauce.
No. Something that's thick is no. Something that's thick is no, because the whole point is, what's the point? The point is that a solid in the liquid is so, you can see it, it's there, it's, you know what I'm saying? But if it's a thick thing, then it's not so easy to find, you know what I mean? You have to find it. So then it is already a mixture. You know what I'm saying?
Meatballs and fish balls and tomato sauce.
If it's thick, it's not, it is going to be considered
You need
mixed.
a spoon or you need a fork. Where you find
If it's a
it?
thick soup that it's not easy to find things in, then it's considered mixed. I don't know exactly. I can't tell you a viscosity level.
You can have something that's thick and clear, and you can see it. You can see the.
Like what? Like what's thick and clear?
Well, the typical example in cooking for anything, for the difference between thick and thin, is usually coats the back of a spoon. I'm not saying that is what it should be, but
What if it what?
coats the back of a spoon. You know that a sauce is a sauce when it coats the back of a spoon, as opposed.
Doesn't run off it completely.
Yeah,
I do hear you, but I don't want to give
no, of course.
that here because I don't know. I don't know. Okay, so now this is a question that Rafal brought up last time, and since I saw Rabbi Farkash's sefer, I do want to point it out. Because we said that the Alter Rebbe says that you're allowed to pour out the fly from the cup. Pour it out, not just allowed to, that's the way he recommends. You can blow the fly to the edge and then tip it out. So we said that the pshat that's given in it, I mean, there's different opinions, but the way I learned is that because you're using the food to tip it out, so it's considered boyer oichel. It's included in the permissibility of boyer oichel, of selecting the good. When you use the oichel, that's considered boyer oichel. It's like the derech achila, it's like the way of eating. So you asked, well, can I use the oichel to push out psilus? Actually, so Rabbi Farkash says yes. For example, he says, if you have a seed, let's say a date seed or something, he says you can actually hold on to the date and shake out the pit, excuse me. That's the example he gives. No, only for immediate use. The whole point of this is that it's like boyer oichel. When you use the oichel to get rid of the psoilas, it's like boyer oichel. But if you want to eat it immediately. Ask him, why do you have to do that? Let me think about that. Why is it not? It's saying it's anyway, it should be anyway allowed, like all seeds that are in the way. So why do you have to do it that way? 1 second.
Maybe he meant not for.
Maybe not immediately before eating.
You want to check if they're still here? The left?
The camp.
Oh, yes. Sorry?
I'm saying it's
What?
maybe he meant not for immediate use.
No. I said that the whole point of this heter is that when you use the oichel to get rid of the psoilis, it's like boyer oichel. It's like it has the same rules as selecting the good. When you use the good to get rid of the bad, it has the same as selecting the good. But you have to follow the rule of selecting the good, which is right before use. The Rebbe says that clearly, that you only tip it out right before immediate use.
Yeah, but we could do that anyway.
Text A. Oh, you could take the pit out anyway, you're asking. Is that your question?
It's derech achila.
That's your question. That's a false
You
question.
spit it out or whatever you have to do.
That's a good question. Let me see if there's something I'm missing here.
And does that mean I can, if I hold 2 carrots like chopsticks, I can take out vegetables I don't want from an array of carrots and Brussels sprouts?
No, then you're using the chopsticks like you're using your hand.
No,
Food that it's
carrots.
in with. I'm talking about the food that it's mixed in with.
Yeah, if I have
This piece of food to make boyer magically mutter.
no. Let's say I have carrots and Brussels sprouts, right? They're mixed together, and they're chunks of carrots. If I take a couple of carrots, I use the carrots to pick out the Brussels sprouts or to move the Brussels sprouts away. I would be able to do
Once
that.
you pick the carrots up, then they're already separate. I'm talking about if they're still mixed in and you use the food to tip out the psoilus, that's what we're
So
saying.
if I have a salad and I want to grab my salad lettuce, and as soon as I grab it, there's a carrot on top. I can flick it out.
Flick it out, exactly. That's exactly what he's saying. Correct.
So you don't want it to pick it up.
But I do want to look that question up. Give me 1 second, please. מותר לאחוז ביד תמר שנפתח ולנער עד שגרעין ייפול ממנו, וכן מותר לנער אבטיח שיפלו בגרעין ממנו. Okay, avatiach is an example. Avatiach is an example. The watermelon. I see, he does say it about tomorrow, yeah. Yeshal Agram. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why you would need to do that. It would seem that you should be allowed to do it anyway. So I'm not sure. Okay, number 3.
What did we say with the seeds? What was the watermelon seed?
There are opinions that you can do it directly, just like fish, but it's better not if you can do it this way, shaking it off, or even eating it and spitting it out.
It's also possible
That's better.
to shake it out.
That's true.
So I think we mentioned that also. What was the other way to do it?
I mean, the most lachatchila way is just to eat it and spit it out.
Right.
But if a person doesn't want to do that, he's from England or something. Nothing against Englishmen. My father-in-law is one of them. But if he's very particular and whatever, then yeah, there's room to allow taking it out directly, just like the bones of fish, which it's hard to eat without it, so it's considered derech achila according to many poskim. So that's that. Okay, now this is something that we mentioned in the past from the Shmir Shabbos KeHalacha, but he says it in slightly different words, and he gets into a lot of details in the notes. But here's what it is: a person who is being borer the psoilus because he wants to eat the psoilus. He wants to take the bran out of whatever bran cereal. He wants the bran, and he doesn't want the stuff that is normally considered better food, because for whatever reason he prefers that medically or whatever. So he's taking what most people consider psoilas, and he is taking it out of the oichel, but he wants to eat it now. It doesn't go by the. I don't want to say these words, but it doesn't go by the Torah. Torah, there's no list of psoilas in the Torah. No list of oichel in the Torah. It goes by people. What people consider oichel as oichel, people consider psoilas as psoilas. You know what I'm saying? That's how the Torah is defining it by the way people define it, right?
Can I ask a question on this?
1 second, let me just finish. So he says that if you're planning to later eat the oichel, so then you can't do that. You can't take out the psoilas, even for immediate use, to be able to eat the oichel later. I mean, with the intent of eventually eating the oichel, because the fact is when you take out the psoilas, you are fixing the oichel. And if you remember, the example of this was the turmus, which we said that the stuff that you take out is considered the psoilas by the Torah. Here, the Torah considers it psoilas because it gets ruined right away, or different opinions. We had so many opinions about it compared to the leaves, because the Torah considers that the psoilas, and even though you want it right away, but if that's the psoilas, you're taking away from the oichel, which the Torah considers oichel, so that's going to be an act of prayer. So the same thing here. Yes, you go ahead.
So when I make salads, I often cut the seeds out of the inside of the cucumber. They are not as desirable, but they're commonly eaten. And what I do on Shabbos is I give them to my kids who love them. So I say I have always assumed that that's acceptable.
It is acceptable. It is acceptable, but that's because those are both oichel. And in fact, you don't even have to give it to your kids because those are both the same types of oichel. Let me explain.
Even though separating the seed part from the not seed part.
No, makes no difference because they're both oichel. They're both edible parts of the same exact fruit. Here's the thing. When it comes to two types of food, two actual types of food, it would be allowed, but only if you actually feed it to somebody. In other words, if the cucumbers would be mixed into the salad and you don't want them, so then you can take them out as long as you actually give them to somebody who actually wants them and is actually going to eat them. But in your case, where you're cutting out parts of the actual cucumber, which are 100% edible, even though they're called seeds, but it doesn't make a difference. They're 100% edible and they're actually part of the cucumber. That is not an act of blur at all. And even if you don't like them and you're cutting them out, that's not an act of blur. You don't have to feed them to anybody.
And we discussed cutting the fat bit off meat, where some people will actually eat it and some people can't stand it.
The fat bit of meat?
Fat or gristle off meat. So if you have a piece of roast beef and it's got a gristly bit, some people eat it, some people don't. Is that the same?
Did we discuss it?
In my mind, we discussed it a few weeks ago, but maybe we didn't.
Did we discuss this question? I don't remember. Cutting the fat off the meat. We did? I don't know.
Discuss the wine.
I don't remember.
There's 2 parts of the...
Well, okay. Let's say we didn't.
I don't remember discussing it, honestly. Fat off the meat.
That's together, but different texture, so you can take the top off the bottom until you get to sliver that it's actually attached.
Let me just address this thing. So the fat off the meat, if most people will eat that fat, then it's not considered something separate, and it would not be considered a act of borer.
So chicken skin would be no problem because a lot of people love it. I can't stand it, but everybody else likes it.
So it would seem, although I have seen in that case some people say that maybe skin has a different category. of meat. I've seen that, but most opinions say no. You're right, because most people eat it and it's part of the chicken. It's not considered
Bones are definitely not, but that is derech chila.
I don't know if most people eat this fat or not. If most people don't, then it's called something that's only edible b'shas chak, something that's only edible in an emergency, which we said is not allowed b'derabbanan. It's not forbidden by Torah.
Well,
But by rabbinic law, it's not allowed. Go ahead.
if
Sorry.
it is really tough fat, then probably somebody would not want to eat that.
Right.
Okay, so where we have a roast beef, there are various things that are usually in it. You'll get the possibilities are bone, gristle, sinew, soft fat, hard fat, I guess.
I have somebody who's a potential Mayav minion. Just give me a second, please. Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead, sorry.
I was saying that if you have roast beef, the potential things in there are bone, gristle, sinew, soft fat, hard fat.
Right.
I imagine soft fat is no problem. Hard fat, a lot of people eat. Gristle, I know many people eat. Sinew, a lot of people tolerate. But when you cut it out, nobody would eat it as a piece of sinew. But people routinely eat it as part of the meat. Does that mean it's the same thing as the meat, and therefore I'm not doing anything? So I actually had this last Friday night where we had roast lamb, and we had a particular person who doesn't like fat. So the rest of us just ate everything, and this one person pulled the little bits off.
Right.
And I figured that nobody else was as particular.
Right. If most people do, then it's no problem anyway.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Complicated, but so it seems.
And the bones, I'm sure we discussed last week.
Yeah, bones are not. Bones are not. Even a bone that you can suck, like a marrow bone, is still considered a separate food item than the meat.
And we take the meat off it.
Take the meat off the bone instead of vice versa, correct. Okay, perfect. Okay, we got a minion. 10 o'clock. This text Lachana doesn't have to come. Okay, let us continue. Now, he does say that if the purpose is not for eating, then you are allowed to do it. It's only if it's for eating. For example, he says you're allowed to take a fish bone to pick your teeth, like a toothpick, even if you're planning to eat the fish later. Because if it's not for eating, it has a different rule. As far as eating is concerned, so as far as picking teeth is concerned, the bone is what you want, and everything else is not helpful. So it's allowed. It's when you're eating one now, one later, that's when there's a problem if you're leaving behind something that's good and most people consider it the better product.
Are you saying that I can take the fish bone out because I'm going to use it later for picking my teeth?
If you're going to use it to pick your teeth, yes, you're allowed to take the fish bone out. Yes.
But it's a separate thing, isn't it?
What? You're taking what you want from what you don't want at this moment.
Oh, so I see you're pulling it out right now to use as a toothpick from the fish.
Exactly.
Okay.
Okay. Soaking fruits and vegetables. So Rabbi Farkash is of the opinion that if there's visible dirt either mixed into them or stuck to them, you are not allowed to soak it in water, in a bowl of water, or any other liquid cleanser for that matter. You are allowed, however, to run it under cold water. Hold it in your hand and run it under cold water in order to get the visible dirt that is stuck to it. This is more the dirt that is stuck to it. When it comes to the dirt that's not stuck to it, you can't even do. You just have
And we
to
could use a strainer as well, right?
strainer. No.
Why couldn't we run the water, put the strawberries in a strainer?
Oh, put the straw. I didn't know what you meant. Yeah. That you could do. Yeah. That you could do.
What's the question?
Put the strawberries in a strainer and turn the water on and let the waters run through the strawberries and the strainer. What? That's fine, yeah. Yeah. The thing is that I don't know if that actually gets rid of the bugs of the strawberries. The way I was told is that you actually have to rub your fingers up and down the strawberries as the water flows on it to get rid of any things that might be hiding. That's what I heard, but I don't know.
I'm not cooking spaghetti, but what's the difference if you put that spaghetti inside with the strawberry?
No difference. If you have spaghetti that has no water in it and you want to cool it off because it's too hot, you can put it in a strainer and you can run water through it. It's no problem. No problem. If the spaghetti is mixed with water and you want to put it in the strainer to get the water out, that's a big problem because then you're doing boyer with the keli. But if it has no water in it and you want to run water through it, that's okay. So that's what we're talking about here. The strawberry has no water. You want to put strawberries which has no water in them, turn the water on, and the water goes through. That's okay.
You can mix it also?
As it's going through?
Yeah.
Is there a concept of separating liquids?
I just want to point out, we're talking about here where the dirt is attached to the strawberry. He says if the dirt is not attached to the strawberry, then you can't do this. You actually have to take the good from the bad, take the strawberry and leave the dirt behind. Talking about if the dirt is attached to it, then it becomes like a peel, which you can do right before eating. That's the basis of this header. Yes, go ahead.
Is there a concept of separating liquids? For example, skimming the oil off the top of soup?
Absolutely. Definitely.
And what's the correct way of doing that?
So
in Yeshiva, I had a great way of doing it.
What was that?
Well, I used to wait, and I don't know if you remember, I was always one of the last people to have soup. And
I must admit, I don't remember.
I had someone say to me, "Look, I really admire the way you don't rush up like everybody else." And I said, "Yeah, I'm letting them take all the oil that I don't really like."
Oh, okay. So Rabbi Farkash says that if the dirt is not actually visible, then there's room to allow even to soak it in water. To put it under the water, for sure you can, because it's stuck to it. So it's no different than dirt that's stuck to it. But he wants to say that maybe if it's not visible, you can even soak it in water because it's not considered separating. He says, Yesh makom lahakel. In other words, if you... About the what? No, there you have a separate problem.
Because usually the dirt is not visible. Maybe we can have bugs, maybe yes, maybe no.
Right, so the problem there is that you're trying to get rid of the bugs and you're soaking it in water, which is going to kill the bugs. So that's a problem of killing bugs. Not of boyer, but of killing bugs. That's the issue. You can't say that it's a davar she'eino miskaven because your whole point is to get rid of the bugs. You know what I'm saying?
But any food that is important, you want to take whatever is on it. Regardless, it's dirt, it's bugs, anything.
I'm sorry?
But any food that you put in water, there's a purpose. Not for cleaning. People put grapes in the water.
I understand, but they don't do it to get rid of bugs, do they?
Some food they have potential more for bugs, some have less.
Do what?
He's asking if you can soak. I said you can't soak lettuce for the purpose of cleaning it from bugs, because you're going to kill the bugs. So he's asking, what about soaking other fruit that might also have bugs? I don't know.
Surely you can only not soak it if you know that there are bugs there.
No, I don't think so. I don't think it's so clear. If your intention is to get rid of the bugs, you cannot say that's a davar she'eino miskaven. You can't say that's not your intention. That is your intention. Okay, you don't want to kill them, but your whole purpose is to get rid of them.
But you don't know if there are bugs there, so it's not a psikresha.
Not knowing is only an excuse if that's not your intention. If it is your intention, then you can't do it. You understand? The premise of doing something when it's not a sure thing is called davar she'eino miskaven, a thing that is not your intention. If it is your intention, you can't do it even if it's not 100%.
But it's not your intention to kill them, and you don't know that they're there.
But your intention is to remove them, and you're removing them in a way that kills them.
Not necessarily. Bugs don't necessarily drown.
Okay, then I don't know the answer to that question. I don't know. I will admit ignorance. If bugs will not necessarily drown, then you're right.
I know ants don't drown. I assume.
Yeah, but that I believe bugs don't necessarily drown, because there's ways out. There's just a stream of water. They don't have to. It's not like a bowl where there's no way out. But honestly, even though I said that last time, when I looked it up in the Shmir Shabbos, he doesn't say you can't soak it in water. He says you can't soak it in vinegar or salt water. So it's mashma that regular water is okay. So I don't know. I'll leave it with that. I don't know. I'm not sure.
So detergent in water is a definite no-no.
Anything that's for sure going to kill the bugs is a definite no-no. Well, what do they do in anybody who was a mashgiach ever?
Yeah, we use a bit of detergent, and I've seen people use salt water as well.
On Shabbos?
Oh, on Shabbos, no. I've never witnessed it on Shabbos. Okay. The thing is, it doesn't usually happen on Shabbos because usually the chefs are non-Jewish, and the mashgiach isn't doing anything at all in terms of washing vegetables or anything. All the prep is done in most places.
Before Shabbos, you're saying?
Yeah. I've never witnessed the things that a mashgiach usually does happen on Shabbos.
Right. I hear you. Okay. Let us continue and say, number 7. Here's an interesting thing. You're allowed to separate between two types of things that you have no use in whatsoever. So why do you want to separate? For a practical reason. So an example of this is you have in your sink a little strainer thing that catches the junk so it shouldn't clog your drain. So you're spilling out water that has stuff in it, right? You're washing dishes, whatever. So the water you don't want. The little pieces of food you also don't want. Even though the strainer is separating between them, and one, which is the water, is going down the drain, and one is staying in the strainer, which you're going to throw out, that's no problem. Because you're separating between two things that you have no use for. You just don't want to discard of them in the same place. That's okay. Exactly. And you're not using either one.
So I can sort recycling from regular rubbish from organic stuff to put into different bins.
That's an interesting question.
I don't care about any of them. It's just a matter of how to most efficiently dispose of them.
I believe so, yeah. I don't see why not. None of them you have no use for. You're not getting any benefit from the recycling.
Unless you were composting the organic stuff, I guess.
Right. Yeah, I think so. I don't see any difference. The same thing he says if you have papers. Some of them are shamus, and some of them are not. And you want to put the shamus in the shamus pile or bag or box, and you want to put the rest in the garbage or in the recycling, whatever. You can do it because you don't want any of them. You just want to put each one in the right place where they belong for no use whatsoever.
He says it's okay.
Rabbi Farkash. I mean, he has a bunch of notes, but didn't read the notes. I didn't have time for that. Now you asked me to read the notes. 1 second.
It's different because something you don't have to use, but the way you put it, you can reuse it. So when you throw it to the garbage, you cannot reuse it. But if you want to change, you can take it out and reuse it.
Yeah, but you're not planning on doing that. That's why you're putting in chains, because you're done with it. Okay, this seems like his chiddush. But he brings the proof of the Mishnah Berurah. And he doesn't bring anybody who argues on it. So, I mean, I'm not saying everybody agrees with it, but it doesn't seem to be a machlokes. It's just he came up with it and he supports it with the idea of the Mishnah Berurah. So, take it or leave it.
It's cool.
No, but everybody uses the strainers in the sink. The shameless thing sounds like a bigger chiddush, but people use strainers in the sink, even though they might pour things in that separates it out, and you're using a keli. I don't know who even thinks about that, but before it's the same idea. However, he does say if the shameless is in a place that is not respectful for it to be, so then your intention is to take it out and save it. You know what I'm saying? You have a positive intention, that's not allowed. Because there you're not just throwing it out. You're doing something to retrieve it, doing an act of retrieval. So you're actually, you know what I'm saying, you're not disposing of it.
You're disposing of it.
I understand, but you're separating it from a place where it can't be. When it's
What? I don't know.
and then it's a problem. It has
No, I'm
another-
saying what somebody was doing. Yeah.
he doesn't have any idea unless
Did
you
we discuss reading it?
okay, maybe.
I don't know where I saw it. Did you? Did the Rav?
No, I don't remember discussing it, but you could read it. That sounds like a way. Or wait till after Shabbos. Or, I mean, there's a general thing. Obviously, if it's in a place that's filthy, it's not going to work. But in general, there's always the heter if things are mixed up and you have no way out to just throw them so that they're spread out. You know what I'm saying? They're not mixed, and then you can take whatever you need. But, yeah.
It looks like winnowing.
No, that's just with the wind. That's with the wind. Okay, here's a chiddush that we have not come across in any of the discussions we've had. And that's because it's in a siman that we are not planning to learn, Shin Lamed Ches. There it says, because I leave you some independent learning for yourselves. Can't do everything. Gotta graduate and continue on your own. So there it says that if your fruit fell down in the chutzner, in the yard, and it got mixed in with dirt, you can't pick it up and put it into a basket.
You have to be just done before Shabbos.
No, even on Shabbos. Even on Shabbos. Not in a basket. You can pick it up one at a time, but you can't pick it up and put it into a basket. So this says in Shin Lamed Ches. No, not the Afghan Shabbos. Why? Lama?
A basket or a tree?
No. No, it didn't fall from the tree. No. It fell from your hands.
Oh.
No. If it fell on Shabbos, it's muktzah. No. If it fell from the tree on Shabbos, it's muktzah. You can't take it at all. Talking about if you had a bag, you were walking in the garden and it fell, now it's mixed in with the dirt or whatever, you can pick it up and put it into a basket. And there's different reasons for it. Some say it's like ma'amer. It's like,
one piece.
no, not one. I'm talking about a bunch of fruit. Some say it's like ma'amer. It's like gathering. Looks like gathering. It's not gathering because this isn't where it grew. It grew, in Georgia somewhere, and now it fell and you're just picking it up. But it looks like gathering. And some say it looks like borer because you're taking it and you're putting it in a basket. Even if you're planning to use it right away, because otherwise it's borer anyway. But because you're putting it in a basket, it looks like it's a long-term thing. Yeah. Near a kabar. It looks like bar. So he does bring down some
It was
poskim.
already in your basket and it's just spilled in the basket. Don't put it back where it used to be.
Makes a difference.
Nira is our sign, right? Because
not always.
taking my recycling out of my garbage, Nira can. Where else?
I don't know. Why? How do you know? Well, I mean, why are you saying that?
Definition. It looks like you're doing something else.
The laws of Boyer are so complicated. Nobody even knows what's asa and what's mutter.
So you're allowed
If it's the
No, the point is that here it looks like you're doing it for extended use. And there is no heter. Exactly. The basket. There is no. One second. The point is there is no heter for an extended use bar. There's a heter, good from bad, what I'm saying, whatever. So maybe people don't realize what's good, what's bad, whatever. But once it looks like you're doing it for extended use, that's a problem anyway. Yes.
So the equipment is important to tell in the backyard outside that people can see it. But let's say it's going inside your house. You can pick it up into the basket.
Yeah, you can put it up to the basket. But if
your backyard is surrounded with food stamps that basically nobody from the city can see it.
No.
The same thing.
Yeah, same thing.
There's no matter nobody can see it.
First of all, Maras Ayin is also even b'chadrei chadarim. Kol davar she'asu cham ne Maras Ayin afilu b'chadrei chadarim aser.
So when in the house you just
First of all, you didn't say if it was mixed into dirt. What's the butter if it's in the house?
it's almost dirty.
Dirty? No, I'm talking about mixed in with dirt.
Rob was explaining that the fruit's falling outside of your house.
And mixed in with dirt, yes.
Yeah,
And
you know,
mixed
put it
in
back
with
in the
dirt. That's the problem. Even if you're planning to use it immediately. So normally you can do butter for immediate use. But here, because you're putting it in a basket, it looks like you're doing long-term butter. But I'm talking about visible dirt. I'm talking about it's mixed in with dirt. No, also not. Any place that it looks like you're going to keep it and not use it right away, it's a problem. You can put it into a plate. You can put it into a plate in your hands, or anything that looks like you're eating it right away. But not into anything in any container that looks like you might keep it for a long time. You know what? I just want to look it up in Shin Amachas. Maybe pass me. You mind passing?
So let's say it's down in the kitchen outside.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Outside and you have outside you have a sink outside. You cannot pick it up and throw it into the sink one by one and then wash them.
No, the sink is not a place that you keep things.
So you can put them in and
Yeah,
collect them.
the sink is okay. Because you don't keep things in the sink.
This doesn't to be visible.
Yeah.
Who is going to?
I don't know. I'm not finding it now. I'm from.
Next time I study,
Where can I find it? Shin Lamed Hey Sefei. Sorry. Shin Lamed Hey, not Shin Lamed Chas. הספזו לא פרס בחצרי, אתה שומע? אחסינו ואחסינו, מלאכת מעט מעט ואויכל, ולא ייתן לסך הסל ולא לסך הקופה, שלא יעסק דרך שויסו בחויל. אבל אם נפלו במוקם אחד, נס נפל לסך הסל והקופה, אלא אם כן נפל לסך צורס והפרוס שבחצר, שזה מלאכת אחד אחד, ובאויכל ולא ייתן הסל ולא לסך הקופה, שלא יעסק דרך שויסו בחויל. So there's two issues here. If it's nispazru in the chatzar all around, so then even if it's not mixed into dirt, it looks like ma'amer, looks like gathering. If it fell in one place, I don't know. If it fell in one place, so then it's a problem only if it mixed in with dirt, because then it still is kederach hachoil if you put it into a basket. Rather, he says echad echad v'oichel.
Basically, if they spill in your house.
In your house, it's no problem anyway. Actually, no. In your house, it's no problem if it's not mixed into anything. Because even if it spreads out far, it doesn't look like ma'amer. Ma'amer is only in a place where it could grow. It can grow in your house. But if you happen to have dirt on your floor and it mixes in with the dirt, I think it's a problem even in the house.
So outside, let's say I just want to make a little bit. All your backyard, basically, it's all like piles, basically, cement, whatever.
I don't think it applies. It doesn't apply. It's talking about a dirt, a place where it can.
Be dirty over there.
Okay, but in terms of ma'amer, it certainly doesn't apply. Ma'amer is if it falls in a place where it could grow. It looks like you're doing ma'amer from the field. That's not a question of having a roof or not a roof. It's a field or not a field. You know what I'm saying? But if it's dirty, yeah, it could be. As far as that's concerned, as far as Borer is concerned, it could be a problem. Yes.
in the house, if it fall on the floor, we teach you the keys to watch it, to wash it before. If it falls on the floor,
Okay.
so the kids can pick it up and wash it.
Okay.
It, right?
Okay.
It's okay, right?
Mm-hmm. You can wash it for sure. Okay. Number 11. Here's a chiddush. Rabbi Farkash says, you can ask me where he gets it from, I don't know. Rabbi Farkash says that if you use a, here's the thing. We've said in the past that you can use a keli to do breira as long as it's not helping you do the breira, right? You can use a spoon if the purpose of the spoon is not to get your fingers dirty, or because you can't hold liquid anyway in your hand, you need a spoon that's too hot, or you can't reach it. You know what I'm saying? That's not called boyer with a keli. But if it's a type of keli that helps you do the breira, then it's a problem. So here's the chiddush, my friends. He says, when you pour out of a keli and you hold back the stuff from coming out,
This is not good.
that's no good. Even whether with your hand, whether with a spoon.
So you have to swine.
Yeah, we learned it's fine.
No, we learn it's not. We learn it's not.
Remember we asked with your hand is fine, with your finger is fine, but
I don't remember that, Rabbi. I remember you mentioned before to put the hand not. Without the hand, you can. That's what the Rabbi said.
Pour without the hand, so everything's gonna fall out.
Look at the class before. Listen to the.
They are not considered, it's not considered a kid.
Give me a moment, please.
Very dependent. Separate the hair from the basali with the hands. You paint in front of you.
So again,
To separate the hair from the basali.
oh, talking about
with
the
hands.
cup, the cup, right?
No, this is when the plate is in front of you. You can piece by piece or everything at one time.
No, they're talking about the cup.
Talk about a cup.
Yes.
To separate the hair from the basali with the hands. If you place in front of you, you can take pieces. Separate.
It's okay.
Piece by piece. Piece by piece.
Yeah, Siri. אתה יכול להגיד לחבר שלך אם...
לא, אמרתי לך, יש. בסדר, זה בסדר. Okay, so here's what he says. I'm just going to read you what he says. As my head is starting to spin. Okay, so here's what he says. You cannot use a spoon to hold back the solids as you're pouring out the liquid from a pot. You cannot use a fork. You cannot use the top of a pot, the lid of the pot. You also cannot use your fingers if you spread them to form like a strainer sort of thing. You know what I'm saying? You have spaghetti. You have spaghetti and you want to get out the liquid. You cannot, put your fingers as a strainer to hold them back as you pour it out.
It's the same
thing.
Same thing.
Oh, you mean the palm without the fingers? Yeah. So there he says, if you want, I understand what you're saying. If you want the liquid, he says that's all right. if you want the liquid, right? If that's what you want, that's okay. He's considering what you're pouring out to be what you're separating. So he is considering it to be separating by hand. So if you want the liquid, that's okay. You're separating by hand for immediate use. But if you want the solid, you're pouring out the liquid, then it's a problem. Then it's a problem anyway. You know what I'm saying? Because you're pouring out what you don't want. So even though you're doing it by hand.
You have left with the food what you want. When you get a power, I'm spilling out what I don't want, and I get left with my hand what I want.
That's a big machlokes. That's a big machlokes. When you pour something out, what is the item that is being selected, and what is the item that is being selected from? Is it what you're pouring out is being selected, and what you leave behind is what you're selecting from, or just the opposite? Is what you're pouring out what you're getting rid of, and what you're keeping is what you're selecting, what you're keeping in your hand? That's a big machlokes.
So, but according to what you just said, I can enjoy from both. If I want to enjoy, if I want the liquid, so I can block it, and then I just pour the liquid into another container and enjoy the liquid.
That's what he allows. The other way he doesn't allow.
But wait, but if I don't want the liquid and I just want the solid, I'm just going to put the liquid into the sink and have that really good that I want.
He doesn't
This
let
will
you
be
do
like
that.
all the Siman.
No.
That you have the concept that you get left the food in the good one in your hands.
No.
Why not?
That's not what we learned. That's a machlokes, but that's not what Rabbi Farkash holds. Some people hold that, but some people hold that.
Just before you said you answer you're allowed to pour the liquid out the pickles, and you're allowed to keep pickles.
No, that's not because of this. That's because we said the pickles is a big piece in liquid. A big piece in liquid is not considered selecting. There you could do it even with a keli. Even using the lid with the thing, little opening, pouring it out, no problem. Even though it's a keli, but it's not considered mixed. That's a separate thing. What you're saying is the opinion of some serious people. The Alter Rebbe's grandson, for example, the Divrei Nehemiah of Dubrovna, and the Ktseis HaShulchan all learned the pshat like that in the Alter Rebbe, that what you keep in your hand is what you're selecting. But the way he learns pshat and the way some others learn pshat, the reason you're allowed to pour out the fly is not because what you're left in your hand is what you're selecting, but because when you're using the food to get rid of the drink, that's called boyer oichel. Sorry, when you're using the food to get rid of the psoilus, you're using the soup to spill out the psoilus, that's called boyer oichel. It's a special din. It's not because of what's left in your hand. See what I'm saying? It's a different concept. There's actually a very...
So if I let some, with this, I don't know, with this coverage we're talking about, with the liquid will come also smaller pieces. That's also considered as food. And I'm going to left only with the big pieces.
Like what? Give me an
Let's
example.
say you have a soup.
Yeah.
Potatoes, carrots, and always going to be like a smaller pieces of the potato cuts,
Yeah.
trash. So now you want only the salad, you want only the potato and the carrot. You spilling all the liquid. You put in your hand. So some small pieces will come out, but the big pieces will remain in the pot. It's fine.
No, he holds that's not fine because you're getting rid of what you don't want.
But I've left it where I want.
I understand, but that's
And
not...
I'm using food to get rid of what I don't want.
No, okay, here's the chiddush, my friends.
But it have to be actually solid,
Exactly.
not food from food.
Exactly. Here's the chiddush, my friends. Here's the chiddush, my friends. This is one of those chiddushim that you only come across once in a long while. When the Alter Rebbe says that you're allowed to pour out the fly, he doesn't say that heter for pouring out the fat from the soup.
That is better.
Exactly. Yassi, you listening? Yossi.
Yep, I am listening.
All right, this is important if you want to be able to pour the fat out of the soup, or actually know why you can't do it. So, see, if you understand the Alter Rebbe's reasoning that he allows you to pour the fly out of the soup, because what's left in your hand is what you're selecting. So then, what's the difference? Pour the fly out, or the fat out. What you're left with in your hands, that's what you're selecting. You're selecting the good from the bad. B'vakasha, enjoy. However, the Alter Rebbe's wording, he only writes that specifically about the fly. He doesn't write it about the soup. You'll notice. I'll read it in a second. So you could say, well, he didn't say it, but he expects you to understand it. But the fact is, he doesn't say it. So here's the way Rabbi Farkash understands, and Rabbi Chaim Shalom Deitch and others. Here's how they understand it. When you're holding a cup or a bowl, and there's food in it, and there's psoilus in it, there's something that's not edible in it. So what's the main thing here that this cup is bottled to, is nullified to? It's serving the soup. It's not serving the fly. It's not here for the fly. So it's considered as if you're holding onto the soup through the bowl or through the cups, like you're holding onto the soup. The fly doesn't belong there. So it's not like something you're holding onto. So you're using the oichel to get rid of the psoilus. That's okay. That's called borer oichel.
Now I remember when we talked about the wine and the crop pieces, said that use your finger blocking.
Okay.
Because actually it's solid from the wine.
Okay. But one second. Let me just finish. So here's the thing: when it's food from food, when it's the fat on the soup, which is edible, plenty of people like the fat. Some people don't. That's fine, but it's edible. So you can't say that the soup that you're getting rid of, what you're holding onto the oichel, using the oichel to get rid of the psoilus. You're holding onto both, and you're getting rid of one. So that whole idea of using one to get rid of the other doesn't apply. You're using both to get rid of one. So that whole heter doesn't apply. I want to read the words of the Alter Rebbe, and you'll see how precise it is, according to this opinion.
Sure, you're not in something about what the two type of food, but for you, one could consider as solid.
Right.
And you said it's separated.
To give it to somebody else. We said you can give it to somebody else. Yeah. Only do it to somebody else, not for yourself. So
For immediately eat or
immediately.
So Rabbi, going back to the
I just want to read it inside because it's very interesting.
Siman is it?
No, this is in the Piskei HaSiddur, the back. The whole thing about the fly is in the back. It's in the Siddur. Because in the Alter Rebbe, in the Shulchan Aruch, he says that like the Taz, take it out with a spoon. In the Siddur, he changes his mind. He says, no, don't use that heter, whatever.
So what you going to read?
I'm reading from the Siddur. Listen carefully. Don't follow the well-known heter, right? The common heter. To remove the fly with a spoon, this is skila. That's a chashchi of chadas and skila. Very, very dangerous.
It's actually the heter from the Taz.
Yeah, exactly. Don't rely on that. There is no heter, only to pour from the cup until it falls out. So don't blow it till it comes out. You're allowed to blow it till it reaches the edge. And then tilt it, and then tilt it until it falls out. Now listen to his explanation. Because the way it's falling out is because you're holding the cup with the liquid in it, and you're tilting it with your hand. It's called borer oichel from psoilus. And it's permissible to drink it immediately. Up until now is the fly. Now is the fat. Same thing. Va'afilu shuman hatzaf al pnei haroitev, even the oil, the shuman is like oil, even the oil that is floating on top of the soup, lo yizakenu al yedei kav, you shouldn't throw it out with a spoon, im roitev, with soup, sha'arei zeh ke'bor p'sos moichel v'chayev, because that is like bor p'sos moichel, and he's chayev. Finished. He doesn't say about tipping it out. Doesn't say. Just says.
Yeah, but you put it in the same measure. So you mean like the same, don't rely on the heter, so it means.
Doesn't say. Not a word. Doesn't say tip it out. Doesn't say.
Yeah, but tell me what not to do.
Does he what not to do? Doesn't say what to do.
I think you're missing a line.
Not missing a line. Not missing a line.
He told you what not to do, but just before they told you how to do it.
I'm saying, but he could have put it right together. He could have said, if you have fly in the soup or you have oil, so then this is what to do. Doesn't say it. It's a diuk. I'm saying those that say the different pshat and al the Rebbe, like I told you, some say whatever's in your hand, that's what you're selecting. So they say that the same thing applies to soup, to the fat. Because the fact is, it's in your hand. So they understand that this is v'chein. It's the same thing, no difference. But that's the way they hold, correct. But according to the other way of learning Pshat and Alter Rebbe, no, it's a special thing only for oichel and pselis. It's not a heter for oichel and oichel. According to this, actually, you're stuck with your fat on your soup. Just wait until everybody else takes, and then.
But did you say the last one, the nafal fat into your soup?
No. That's about chinam nafal kashish beretim. He talks about a fly in a cup and a fly in a bowl, and then he talks about the fat. Va'afilu shuman, then it's a new thing. Va'afilu shuman atzaf al pnei haroitev, not fell. Shuman atzaf al pnei haroitev. Lo yizukenu al yedei kaf im roitev shezikaber p'sos b'oichel v'chayev. Period. Yes, sorry, go ahead.
Today we're learning something.
So that's a very interesting finish. Okay, my friends. So I don't know if we have any clarity about using your hand.
Regarding solid, food from solid.
Food from Solis, yes, he says you can do. Food from Solis. Food from food or Solis from food, he says you can't. That's what he's saying.
Solid from food you could use a finger. The other example.
According to your way. According to your way. According to your way. If you say what's you're holding back is what you want, then you can. But if you say what you're getting rid of is what you're selecting, then you can't. So you can only do it if that's what you want. If what you're taking out is what you want.
I know it's not steady, but you can take a little more and put it.
What?
The shuman, like if you. So
take it in your mouth.
So what we have.
You can't take it in your mouth. If you don't want it, is that what you're saying?
So you can remove it.
You definitely can't remove it. Can you? Maybe you can. According to the Taz, you can remove it with some soup.
With the soup.
With some soup. According to the Alter Rebbe, I don't have a simple way to remove it. Unless you take it with a large amount of soup. A large amount of soup, then it would be okay.
Like you pour for on a plate a larger of soup.
If you pour out a large amount, so it's not part that it's mixed with, you know what I'm saying? That when you take out a small amount, that's why he disagrees with the Taz. If you would take a large amount, it wouldn't look like borer at all, because you're not really separating between them.
How about the example you start saying that not separate the finger? It was regarding food from food or solid from food? In order to use your hands to.
He was saying even.
What was the example about? Food from food or food from or solid from food?
He was talking about even if you want the liquid.
It's food from food.
Yeah, even if you want the liquid and you want to leave behind the solid, you can't use your hands as a strainer.
But are you saying anything that you can use it for solid?
I want to explain what he's saying, by the way. I want to explain what he's saying. when you use your hand like a strainer, that's not derech achila. The whole point of using your hand is that it's the way of eating. If you're using your hand as a keli, understand, that's not the way of eating. That's the way of straining before you eat. That's why it's a problem.
So it's going to be regardless if it's...
Even if you're taking what you want.
Sword.
Exactly. Even from sodas, you can't use your hand as a strainer. Because then the whole idea of using your hand doesn't apply. The idea of using your hand is that's the way to eat. It's not the way to eat. That's the way to strain. Yeah.
So you talk about the pickles. Just open the jar, seal it, and on the one because it's not separate. It's not small piece, it's big piece.
Exactly.
What happens when you open a can of tuna? You open it. Usually you take the tuna and you leave the can like this really quick.
Exactly.
But in this case, the tuna is solid, one piece.
I don't know about that.
Why not?
Tuna is like little.
When you open it's one piece. Maybe one piece here, but the most is one piece.
It's not one.
It's a solid tuna or it's
Can you drain it with your hand?
I think it's better to just take out the good. I think it's better to take out the good.
Okay.
The point is, when you have a pickle, it's separate. Here, the tuna, even if it's a piece, but the liquid is in between all the little cracks. You know what I'm saying? It's mixed. I'm pretty sure he says not to do it with tuna. Pretty sure. Exactly. Okay. We discussed in the past about preparing before a meal if you want to make a lot of dishes. And we said different opinions about that. Rabbi Farkash rules that you are allowed to prepare as many dishes as you want before the meal, as long as you do it in such a way that you won't have extra time. In other words, if you have to make 10 dishes and each dish takes you a half hour to make, you can start 5 hours before, even if it involves taking good from bad. Because as long as you do it in such a way that you're going from your preparation to the meal, that's all okay.
So you shouldn't finish it before finish the show.
Exactly. You should arrange it in such a way that you finish it right before the meal is ready to start. Yes.
About the wash the dishes.
No, he's talking about if you're making a salad. So making a salad, preparing, you're going to take what you want, you don't want different
Same
pieces.
time you're working from a synagogue.
Yeah. If you're preparing the kiddush, you have to feed 200 people. You have to start maybe 7 in the morning. But as long as you start at such a time that you're planning to finish when shul is over, you can prepare and take the good from the bad in all those cases. Okay. Now we had a bit of a question about if you want to select now, but you're not going to need it till later, but you only can do the selection now. For example, you're going to somebody's house and you want to take a sefer with you, but you're not planning to use it right away in that person's house. So you're going to select it now just because this is the last, if there's an Erev, obviously. So this is the last place that you're able, it's the last time you're able to take it, but you're not actually going to use it right away. So there's different opinions about that. Rabbi Farkash is strict about it, but Rabbi Vosner actually is lenient about it. I think we mentioned in the past. But even so, Rabbi Farkash says if you want to give a guest what's called Seder Derech, like a doggy bag, you want to give him some stuff to take home, that's considered use. Your use is to give him food. You want to be a good host, do the mitzvah of giving him. So that's okay. Even though he's not going to eat it till later, that's not your problem. You're giving it now. So that kind of borer is considered immediate use.
By the way, if you live in a place where there is no Erev,
Yeah.
you have guests coming in.
And you have what?
They have guests coming in, and when they leave, they want to take some food with them.
Huh? No Erev?
They don't care.
What do you mean they
You're
don't
allowed
care?
to give them.
Of course not.
You're allowed to give them.
Of course not. What's the question? No. Okay, I can't help any Jew do any of it.
He's coming from the limousine also?
Chas v'shalom. Can't. Okay. So
You allowed to open the door for him to go inside the house?
Something that says the thing in the Mishnah is that you shouldn't give a shalach your guest with food. Like that. You want to do it?
why?
I don't remember. It doesn't have the Mishnah that eyes are talking that you shouldn't send them out.
No, on the contrary. You're supposed to give tzedel there always. I mean, not always, not on Shabbos. That's not here, but I'm saying it's a good thing. Yonasan didn't give David, and that's why he got into the whole trouble with the Noiv and the Kohanim, and it led to a lot of trouble. Usually it's a good thing. Okay.
Maybe Chashash is going to pick it more than food. Shabbos, I just I'm sure there's something.
That's something else. That depends on your guest. Okay, we discussed this in the past, but Rabbi Farkash says it, so I'll repeat it. You have clothes that you want to... Clothes that you didn't get a chance to fold and put away before Shabbos. Now, in general, we said you're not supposed to fold on Shabbos anything you could have folded before Shabbos. We said that from the Elia Rabbah. But you were not able to fold it before Shabbos, for whatever reason. And if you can't fold on the creases ever, right? I mean, not ever. If it's white and one person and you have nothing else to wear, a whole thing. But very rarely can you ever fold on the creases on Shabbos. But most clothes we have doesn't have that. So you have some stuff, you want to fold it and put it away. So you can't fold, you can't choose different items to fold and then fold them separately. You can't choose the undershirts and fold them, put them in a pile, because that's sorting. But you can take whatever comes to your hand,
One each time, whatever.
fold it and put it away.
Put it away, you can put it on the bed, let's say.
Same thing.
Pile them up.
Same thing. As long as you don't look for the particular thing. However, he points out, this is where it gets a little bit very slight differences. Your intention can't be, I wanna sort the laundry. That can't be your intention. Your intention has to be, I want to fold the laundry. Once I'm folding it, I'll also sort it. You understand? Because if your intention is to sort it, you're just sorting it in a different way. Same thing he says with drying dishes. You want to dry the dishes and put them away. So you can pick up one at a time, you dry it, and you put it away. Each one in the right container, you can do it. As long as you don't look for the spoons. Take whatever comes to you and you put it away. But that's only because your intention is not, I want to sort my cutlery now. Your intention is to dry it. Once you're drying it, okay, I have it in my hand. I may as well put it where it belongs. But you can't, he says, if your main intention is to sort it, then you can't say, well, I'm going to sort it in this way by picking it up one at a time, because that's just a backhanded way of sorting. That's just like sorting with the shinu. That's not allowed. Yes.
Explain the folding again. So you have the laundry.
Yeah.
You're folding it, but incidental to that, you're obviously.
You're also going to put it away where it belongs.
But don't we have an issue of what your kavanah is with that laundry? Isn't that doing work that maybe something you're going to do for Chol after Shabbat? Same thing with the dishes.
That is a question. And we did discuss that when we learned about it.
How about folding with the bed?
It is a question. When we learned that in Shin Beis in 302, we had that question. What is the heter?
If you may come to use it at some point during Shabbos. But if you're folding a stack of clothes, I mean, how realistic is that?
No. That's your question. That wasn't our question.
Okay.
Because in Shin Beis 302, it said clearly that to be able to fold something white on the creases, you can only do it if you have many conditions.
Right.
One of the conditions is that it's only what you have, fold it with one person, and you need to use it on the same day. However, Alter said if you're folding it not on the creases, then you don't have to keep any of those conditions, any of them. That means even if it's for the next day. That's what it says in Shulchan Aruch. It's not even Alter Rebbe only. It's everybody says it. 1 second. So not everybody. There are some who are strict, even not on the lines. But the main halacha is that it's okay if it's not on the lines. The point is, we asked it then, what's the heter? You're not using it on the day. So it seems that there has to be another intention that you have that is also beneficial for Shabbos day. You don't want to wear it on Shabbos, but you also, it's in your way, and you want to get it out of your way. You know what I'm saying? It bothers you that it's in the dining room. I mean, not dining room. It's in the living room. It's on your bed. So you have an intention that is relevant for Shabbos, but it doesn't have to be that you're actually going to wear it. See what I'm saying? I'll talk about the drying the dishes.
Yeah.
If you're planning to use them
Right.
for
Glasses,
the next
we have
meal,
no issue, but I know
exactly.
dishes.
Dishes, if you're planning to use it for the next meal, of course.
Yeah.
Or if you're not planning to use it for the next meal, so then you have to have a Shabbos intention
Yeah.
that maybe you're not going to use
These
it.
are only your Shabbos dishes. And
No, not about that. You need the space. You need the countertop to be able to prepare the shal shudas. You're not using these plates, but they're in the way. So you could put them away. While you put them away, you'll dry them. You know what I'm saying? There has to be a Shabbos intention, even if it's not to actually use them.
Yeah, we learn about the dishes. You don't know which one to take for Sudash Lishit. You can wash all of them.
That's also true. It's also true.
But that can be a reason for anything. Any kind of clutter, any kind of mess gets in the way of Shabbos. Potentially.
I'm not saying to use this heter capriciously and willy-nilly. I'm talking about if it's a real thing, you're actually planning to use that counter. Not that you're making it up to be able to
get, got an hour on Shabbos afternoon, let's fold the laundry.
That's not what I'm talking about.
That's right.
I'm talking about
it has to be
that it has to be that you actually have a real intention. Yes, question.
Yes. Is it enough that it bothers you? It's messy. You don't need the counter. You don't need the table, wherever it is. But it's messy, and you want it to be.
If that's a true, if that's an actual reality, and it's not just something that you're saying. Yeah. If it actually bothers you, it can't be that it's an excuse to be able to do it on Shabbos because you don't want to be bothered doing it after Shabbos. But if you're the type of person that it bothers you, that even during the week it would bother you, you know what I'm saying? Having a dirty kitchen bothers you, yeah.
A lot of people may cover newspapers and cover the dirty dishes so that it doesn't look messy.
Right.
Which, to me, I don't see the point. But,
yeah.
I saw you told you that not to consider liquid alcohol.
Because it mixes in. It's all mixed.
Before it's come in contact with liquid, or
No. I don't mean liquid like liquid. I'm talking about liquid compared to the pieces. You can't separate between the pieces for the purpose of boyer, not for the purpose of chametz and gebrachs. I'm talking about you can't take the pieces, the big pieces out of matzah meal, because that's like separating. Normally, you can take a big piece of matzah from a small piece of matzah. You know what I'm saying? That's not separating because it's all the same. But if you have matzah meal mixed in with matzah, you can't separate them because that's bar. Because they're like two separate type of things. Matzah meal is matzah meal, and you know what I'm saying? And the pieces are something else. That's what I mean. I mean in the dinim of boyer. I don't mean in the dinim of gebrachs. Okay, so I mentioned that according to the Alter Rebbe, the fact that something is not kosher doesn't make it a different species for boyer. Remember I mentioned that? Something that's not kosher doesn't mean it's a different min for borer. No. Alter doesn't hold that. Alter does not hold that.
For the dog?
Alter does not hold that. Nothing to do with the dog.
Like for the dog? For the dog?
Nothing to do with the dog. Anything that here's how the way Rabbi Farkash explains it. Alter just says he doesn't give a reason for it. But basically, because it's visibly the same, it looks the same, even though KeHalacha it's different, that's not a different min according to Alter Rebbe. For that matter, taking that one step further, milchik and fleshik kalim per se are not considered a separate min. And they might be a separate min just because one is, blue and one is red. You know what I'm saying? Okay, then they're separate. But the fact that one is dairy, one is meat, in and of itself doesn't make it a separate min because that's not a visible difference. It has to be a visible difference. You know what I'm saying? We said that when we were discussing Lechem Mishnah. You know what I'm saying? To separate whole matzah and broken matzah on Pesach, according to Alter Rebbe, it's not a problem.
What if there's a plumb bob on the meat?
Let me just finish. Even though Lechem Mishnah has a halachic purpose, which broken matzah doesn't have, but because that purpose is in your mind, it's not a clear thing. So that's not forbidden according to Alter Rebbe. Yes, question.
Yeah, what if there's like a plumb bob on the meat? That makes it visibly different, doesn't it?
A plumba on the meat, yes. Those were the days when you sucked out the skin from the plumba. When I was little. You know what I'm talking about? The chicken used to have a little piece of metal that was like stuck onto it.
Oh, for the kosher.
They don't do it anymore.
Like in the bread.
They don't do it
the
anymore.
Sticker, the bread,
Yeah. Plumba.
Plumba.
They don't do it anymore. What about it? What's your question?
So if you had pieces of meat, the ones with the kosher had the plumba on it, and then the non-kosher didn't have the plumba. Is that a visual difference to make it borer?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if that's enough of a difference. I don't think so. The plumba doesn't make it different. It just is a sign that it's kosher.
Right.
But it's a good thing you have it, so you know what's what.
About the chicken today, they make a rope around so it will not fall apart.
Okay, so what's your question?
This rope, if you forgot to remove it,
You can cut it.
No problem.
No problem. For food. Now, I do want to mention another machloikis here, which the Ktesa Shulchan is Mekel on, and Rabbi Farkash is Machmer on. But it sometimes has a very practical application. Are you allowed to remove the feathers before you eat your piece of chicken? That's what some will say, yes, or at least just take off the skin. But let's say you want to. So the issue is that
feather is attached to the skin.
Oh,
To take it with the skin.
so that's the main question. Removing feathers is actually a very serious thing on Shabbos because it's goizes. It's one of the 39 malachas. So that's why Rabbi Farkash says not to do it. On the other hand, the Ktesa Shulchan says that the oilam is mekel. People in general are lenient. They remove feathers from cooked chicken, not raw chicken. Raw chicken on Shabbos, you can't. I mean, it's muktzah, what you can do with it anyway. Just don't want cooked chicken on Shabbos. And he has a whole bunch of reasons why he considers it okay. Sorry?
So what do you eat? You don't eat the feathers.
Maybe it's the way of eating. Maybe it's not considered goizes when it's cooked and the feathers are useless at that point because what did they used to do? They used to remove the feathers and use the feathers. You know what I'm saying? The feathers were for the pillows or for a sofer who wrote with them. Now, once they've been cooked, they're totally useless. They're just like limp and whatever. So maybe that's the reason. He comes up with like 3 or 4 different reasons why it shouldn't be considered goizes.
So you're allowed to remove it with the skin?
With the skin, for sure you can, if you just take off the skin. But the question is, if you want to eat the skin, can you remove just the feathers? That's a question that he. Sorry? Oinig Shabbos. Some people, that's the Oinig Shabbos. Okay, my friends, let's take a moment to discuss the plan for tomorrow. So I can teach tomorrow, like I mentioned. Okay. I don't know.
Next week is going to be.
Next week we have off. I just wanted to make sure I'm not intruding with people's shalom bias and their need to help in the house. But if everybody's happy to learn, we'll continue.
Okay, by me.
We continue this, Rabbi. We didn't finish this.
We almost finished it.
Tomorrow we'll finish.
I think I'll write some more. I also wanted to cover Boyer on Yontif, especially since Yontif is coming up. We never really did that in depth, so I'll try to look into that a little bit. Okay, my friends, have a good night, everybody. Yeah, Meyer.
Question.
Yes.
Yes. I was just wondering if one does these sort of things like Easter, Borer, or holding
I
clothes
just
on
have to put
Shabbos.
your volume up because I'm not hearing you.
Wait.
One more time.
Okay, I'm saying if one does like Borer on Shabbos, is there,
Yeah.
or even folding clothes, is there any Easter like cooking where you can't use it until after Shabbos or it becomes usher forever? Is there
That's
any
a
opinion like that?
That's a machlokes. Some say yes, that if you select in a forbidden way, it's forbidden on Shabbos. Some say no, and there is also a third idea that says that you can mix it back in, and that way you reverse what you did and then take out the good from the bad for immediate use. That's like a compromise position.
Okay.
Very good. Have a good night.
Goodbye.
All the best. Thanks.